Manoj, Samrat, and Reetu. We have had a lot of meetings in a very different environment. This is the first one that we are having on a stage.
Yep.
So thank you very much. What I'm going to do is, rather than me introducing all of you, I would love if you can spend 30 seconds to a minute introducing yourselves and the kind of work that you have done, you have been doing.
So I think I have more than 2 decades of work experience, but the way I would like to introduce myself, I started working when we used to have the traditional onboardings and we used to have paperworks. And today in the world where, of course, the only way of working was work from home and evolved to the place where we have all the modes of working available. I'm a keen researcher. I published my first paper on engaging Indian millennials only to realize that millennials are also becoming now old and I have to start writing on Gen Z. And I think that's all about me.
Thank you. Samrat.
Well, even I'm touching 20 years of experience now. And majority of it I have spent in the KPO business and in L&D. And I have been in this stream for long now. And I have started my career delivering trainings for 10 days in a row, 8 hours each day. From that, I have seen that same 10 days training coming down to 2-3 hours of it. Right? So I've seen that entire journey. I have learned a lot and I'm still learning. And I was having an interaction with Manoj a while back and I was telling him, though I have a team of about 45 odd people now, at times when we are all together, I feel like a dinosaur in that. There is so much I learn from them than from.
Thank you. Just because those 10 days trainings have come down to 3, we have to work even more harder.
Yeah. Absolutely. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Manoj. I have 18 years of experience, both in HCM consulting and now in a cost center role across learning, talent, and organization development. Over the years, I have had the unique privilege of specializing in merger and acquisitions. I have been part of 3 of them and continue to specialize in behavioral analysis and why people behave, how they learn, and so on. Thank you.
Thank you. So let's start. Let's begin with discussing the relevance and the importance of personalized learning. In each of your experiences, how has the shift towards personalized learning, because all of you have spent 15, 20 years and you mentioned that those were the days where 8 hours a day, 5 days, 10 days a week, and now there was one program for everyone, take it or leave it. Now we have personalized learning. So how it has impacted employee engagement and the retention? We can start with you.
I think before I really answer that question, we have to actually look at the context. And I think context has changed a lot. When I say context has changed a lot, if I look 20 years back, the knowledge was limited. You had few people who would hold the knowledge. It was a power. And you had to pass on it to the next generation to make them ready and employable for the work. Now, today, knowledge is commodity. It's available everywhere. Your business models are breaking. So your need for new skills is increasing day by day. So what are 2 things changing in the context? One, there is an abundance. Second, there is a need of new skills. Now, when these 2 things are changing, you cannot have standardizations because you need different skills for different types of jobs. That's number 1. And number 2, you cannot just tell them go and do this course because they can do this course any which ways through the open sources. So what will really make us as an effective as an organization and also make employees engaged? If they are able to get the content what they need, one is for the job and also second is for their career. Now, these 2 things, when I say for the job, which is upskilling, and for the career, which is career planning, it cannot be standardized because every person is unique. Every person has their own career history. So what makes it more important is rather than just giving them the sources of the knowledge, we have to personalize it to the context of the organization, that what skills they need, and context of the employee, what career they need.
Thank you. Samrat?
Well, I will take one step back. And before we get into personalized learning, see, the entire mindset, right, varies from each individual. When we went to school and college, our education system was take notes, mug them up, go and write the exam, you're done. And from there we went into the corporate world and we sat in training rooms, we took down notes and we kind of learned it. But today the system has changed, even for kids, right? They do a lot of research on iPads, on whatever channels, etc. they use. The same applies in the corporate world also. if I tell somebody, okay, this is the program, you do it, the first thing they would say, why would I spend so much time on it? I have production to do. My manager is asking me to do that. I get salary to do that work, not this. Unless I personalize it, unless I create that value, show him or her that value addition, it doesn't work. So hence, yes, absolutely personalized learning is the need of the hour. And it gives them that, they feel they have that authority in their hand. I will learn it at my pace, not at what you are asking.
Makes sense.
Manoj, thank you. In fact, personalization has two problems. One is a problem of plenty. Why do I say that? Today, on an average, every organization has 8 different formats or channels through which an employee can learn. So half the time the employee is confused which channel should I even adopt. Problem number one. Thereon, when you move to that n is equal to 1 experience, the learner, there is a shift in the learner mindset and the engagement expected. The learner is looking for just in time, just for me. The engagement is shifting to, will it allow me to complete my job in a more efficient manner? That's the second one. Thankfully, what personal learning is currently doing is it has brought to life the way we all think or process information, which is the cognitive load. And there is a reference to a cognitive load theory, which is actually activated now after so many years of research with personalization coming in, where directly proportionate to how much I can process and how much information is required at that point in time is what I consume. And hence personalization of learning is a way forward that will help. Having said that, there are some shifts that we also need to make in organizations. Of the many, the most important being the decision makers, how much are they aware of what personalization to do? There is a Brandon Hall research of 2023 that shows 49% of key decision makers in organizations, it could be the business heads or the HR heads, may not be aware of how to blend experience and learnability together. I'll hold it there.
Great. So I think that leads to my second question, because personalized learning, to talk about it is very good. Everyone wants to talk about it, but reality at times is different. And my second question would be, how should organizations balance the need of personalized learning with the overarching organizational goals and learning objectives? You can give examples of your current organizations or generally.
I think you said a very important point in this question, and that is about the organization goal. If we want efficiency, and I will go to example of my organization, is we need to have an anchor. If we do not have an anchor, then we will not be, steering the ship in the right direction. Even in this whole mad rush of personalization, organization and employee are anchors. And organization is the super anchor because it is achieving a business goal, and employee is the means to achieve the business goal, and in the process he has to stay engaged with us. And I think the way we did it is we have a concept called talent marketplace within our company. So what do we do? Now, if I look at within the organization, one of the biggest challenges this new era has brought is too many silos and complexity. So you have a learning department, then you have a technical training, soft skills training, talent management, and other functions within HR. What is important is, what is the anchor? How is it serving the employee? And how do I simplify this complexity? When we brought this concept of talent marketplace in the organization, it started building the anchor of the organization at the center, which means organization wants its employees to be upskilled and reskilled for the newer projects which are coming. And for employee, he has to see how is he navigating within the organization, and does he found his next role or career within the organization. Now, what does this talent marketplace beautifully does? It connects employees' life cycle from hiring to retiring and his journey through various sub-modules which are on one platform. So eventually what happens is whatever gets threaded in this, from your first, joining the organization, taking a mobility after 2 years, progressing into same role. So this is the model you have to do. This is what you need to do, move to next job. This is what, and it works on a generative AI. So automatically technology here helps us to bring simplification where we have too many sub modules which are making it too complex.
So I see it in two ways, right? Because one side you have the organization, the other side is the learners. And both of them have their own objective of doing it. As an organization, what value would the agent or the person add if they go through this personalized learning, right? So organization would think about how fast they can be productive, or how fast they can be upskilled on a domain, on a certain skill. From an employee perspective, it's always their growth. And when I say growth, it's not just about promotion or the money. It's about the entire career, how they want to shape it up. So that's where your personalized learning comes more into the picture for the employees. That how is it going to help him or her grow up in the career they have aspired for? They're not looking at 2 years. They're looking at the next 5 years or 10 years where they want to be. The moment you tie it up along with the organizational goals and you bring in that personalization, it clicks.
I'll just make one additional build to the narrative. While the organizational objectives are at the core of every design that we do, keeping the learner or the employee, because what is a primary call to action? Today, the cost of hire has increased. If you have to decrease your cost of hire, increase your retention, increase the productivity and performance of an employee in the organization, we need to know at the core, what is it that the employee needs? Along with the talent marketplace, which many organizations are currently doing, what will significantly add value in this personalization is the human touch. And that's where career coaches come into a significant role. A periodic connect with, and most organizations have increased these roles as we speak. Why? With the advent of digitization, everything is, I'm talking to a monitor. It shouldn't become so superficial that we forget how a human looks like. So starting off with a career conversation to understand what the employee really wants. Obviously, he or she will acquire a skill because there's a job to be done. He or she will acquire a skill because they know it adds significant credibility to their own professional growth. But understanding what is their innate drivers. And that's where possibly organizations should also shift. I have heard of very few who do that, but possibly make a shift in leveraging existing data. And what am I coming to? When we all are hiring organizations, most of the organizations do some kind of a psychometric or a behavioral assessment. While the shelf life of that instrument itself may be questionable or moderate period of time, can you bake in a lot of that into the personalization journey? And that's what will make it a win-win both for the employee and for the organization.
Thanks, Manoj. We cannot talk skilling without talking tech because we are in the tech era. So what's the role of technology what role does technology play in facilitating personalized learning in your organization? And what challenges have you encountered in implementation of those?
I think, I will go back to the first answer. Again, in the implementation, there are two challenges. First challenge is a problem of plenty. Because when you really want to implement something, and if you want to implement a technology, market confuses you. Because there are so many platforms, and everyone has their own USP. And also, sometimes there's also market pressure. Everyone is doing it. If you look at what is happening to generative AI, people who even doesn't know the full spelling of generative AI, they are talking about generative AI, right? So this is what is happening. What is important for the organizations and what we have done very successfully is check where are you, do your own assessment. Because every organization is at a different level of maturity. And sometimes XYZ is doing and my peers are doing, I should go into it, is the most wrong thing to do. And even before that, I think what we have done successfully in our company when we were actually implementing talent marketplace is to do a readiness assessment. Because as I said, every organization is a different stage and level. So what does this readiness assessment help you? This readiness assessment tells you if you are going for this implementation of a huge platform which is based on generative AI, is your house really in order? Do you have the basics in place? Because machine can give you output, basis the input you give it. And I must share a funny example with you. When we were uploading the data and information, and since AI is AI, it's a machine, right? So it will pick up the keywords. So it started picking up the keywords from the various parts of the resume, like cooking is a skill, gardening is a skill. And suddenly we started realizing system is not really matching to our experiences. So this is what can happen when you have not done the readiness assessment. So readiness assessment takes time, and unfortunately today organizations are in rush because business cycles have reduced and they want to do away with this. But the moment you do away with this, eventually you make your own implementation cycle complex, because you will fail for sure. Then you will recorrect what you have already failed. Then you will recorrect second time. So 6 months implementation will go to 12 months time. So what really worked for us, and is my kind of suggestion to everyone, do the first step right. It doesn't give you kick because you don't see results very fast. But if you do this readiness and sanitization and hygiene right, rest will quickly fall in place.
Makes sense.
See, I'll talk about my industry, that is the BPO, KPO, whatever you call it. Here, we had adapted to bringing in or blending in the technology, I think 5-6 years back, right? Because we work in a very regulated environment from a client aspect, right? There are a lot of things which change within seconds, right? Especially when events like Russia invasion happens, or the current one, right? It rocks the entire BFS world, and I belong to that area. So here, technology plays a very big role, but only it is still restricted to the process or domain aspect of it. When we talk about process dissemination, yes, bring in technology. When we talk about making SOPs, yes, bring in technology, right? But when we talk about using this technology to do analysis, like how she has done in her organization, it's still in an adaptive mode. And from my personal experience, the biggest challenge I have faced, and I'm sure many of us would have normally face, is when we try to bring in a new tool from outside and integrate it with our LMS. Right? We have to go over compliance approvals, security approvals, control approvals. I don't know how many times. And at times the person or the company who's provided the tool, there is a boss, I can't go beyond this, right? So, but once it is integrated, that our life becomes very easy. These days, these tools are automatically, it's kind of just make a pick and shift, right? DIY. The tool does it itself. We don't have to go ahead. True. That's the advantage, but to get to that, there's a lot of pain behind it. But yeah, it is.
My take on technology is it's about relevance and not about the first mover advantage. Just to give an example, we all know a zillion LMSs to begin with. But what started as a freeware Moodle is being used by Harvard still at the back end. One. Number two, coming to all Gen AI, all that which we talk about, and I always have this first statement saying, train the brain that trains AI. And to train the brain, which is a human that trains AI, need not necessarily need technology all the time. Yes, it is critical, but the decision makers need to decide, is it the right one for your organization? I think that fundamental screening, if you're investing that time, is directly proportionate to the return on investment on that capex that you make.
Last couple of questions. Looking into the future, how do you see the role of AI and emerging technologies in enhancing personalized learning experiences? Have you implemented those in your organizations, or where do you see yourself in that journey? And when I say yourself, your organization.
I think no discussion can be complete unless and until you have a question on the AI, because that is the reality of today's world. And I think what we have seen before I actually go to answer this question is the shift in past 1 year, 1.5 years, because there was something which was brewing under the ground and we had not experienced. And we were saying that there's a disruption going to happen. But, one day this chat GPT comes and reality hits us hard on the face, and we say, oh, look, there is a machine which is working intelligently like a human being, and we don't know where to go. And the first thing, like in typical humans, we start fearing because you being the most intelligent species, you cannot think that there can be a parallel species to me who can think more smartly than me. I think that's where it starts. And is it going to stop? Answer is no. Can we afford to live in denial? Answer is no. Now, what is important is that we have to be cognizant of the fact that change is here to stay. There is talks going on that there would be a second kind of a workforce existing in the organizations, and this would be machines. So maybe rather than a human asking me a question as a panelist, there would be a bot sitting here and asking me a question, and that reality is not very far. Now, important is that how do we ready ourselves for this future? Because this is not going to go. As humans, we had only the first trigger in our hand. Now, honestly speaking, the control is not in our hands. Now, for that, as I told you, the talent marketplace, which we have implemented, it's completely a generative AI tool which works across the organization, and it has its own nuances. It will become more mature over a period of time. But my, take more than that is we have to start readying ourselves for this future reality, which is a hybrid reality of man and machine. And rather than fearing that reality, start thinking the way, Microsoft Copilot works with you. And start thinking, how do I integrate best of both and move forward? And that is the only, I would say, navigation I do see.
Thank you.
See, the way I see it, I won't say that future of AI, because we are already doing it, right? And especially, at least in our organization, we do use it. There are a lot of tools in the market which are good and can be used in different scenarios. Where we use it is specifically more on when we want to upskill a new hire on the process. Now, why I'm just sharing the example so that you can relate. If I hire a fresher versus I hire a person with 2-3 years of experience, I need to differentiate their learning pathways. If I have an AI tool doing it, it becomes easier for me. Because what the AI tool does is they gauge both the people, and based on whatever the training gaps, they suggest those trainings and they complete it and they're ready for the process. And so that's a very good use of an AI in learning area. From the analytics also, the kind of analysis this tool or any tool you use will give back. That, okay, out of these 50 people, 20 people were struggling in this one particular area. So that changes my focus. Okay, that's something we can develop. Or people were doing good in this, so we can reduce the focus there. That's also, so both ways, training, analysis, everything. Without AI in today's world, I don't think it's possible.
Today, the AI world is more about coexistence. The human has to coexist with AI. And with that as a need, two primary shifts are required. One, when you're personalizing learning, are you leveraging the data? As Samrat mentioned, there is enough and more data that we have. The first question the key decision makers need to ask is, how much of that data am I really putting to use so that I do not overload the learner when it comes to making a recommendation? And how real is that data? Honest reality, some of the organizations may not even have real-time dashboards. So start making that switch, step one. Step two, because AI is like a moonshot. We have already reached Mars, so Moon is not difficult any further, but we need to start with getting our house in order with a lot of information that's available. That's number one. Number two, of course, AI can help us with a lot of content creation, nudges, reminders, bots, and so on and so forth. How much can we leverage is left to the discretion of what is required in your organization culture. Do you want to make it so tech savvy that you lose human connect? Or do you want to balance it with how much of human intervention do you need versus what can run on an autopilot mode to bring in more efficiencies to scale? That's for sure.
We actually the timer started 10 minutes late, so we are almost done. My last question, which is not the favorite of any one of us, is the ROI. We always hear about it, but so any thoughts on ROI on personalized learning? How do you measure? Do we measure at all?
I think first of all, we are not in the linear world. We are in the non-linear world. And when you have to create a concept of an ROI in the non-linear world, the biggest challenge you face is what am I measuring and what are the impacts which are directly proportional to that measurement. It's too complex for me, I must say.
You've been candid enough.
Well, I get asked that question every time I go with a proposal to buy CTS. It was what I am ready to invest, but what will I get? See, we can't show a hard benefit, but where this can come in from a personalized learning is the engagement that it creates for the learner. That's very high. And I have seen it happening, right? The engagement goes up. The interest with the learner develops within themselves. They just don't spend that 40 minutes or 50 minutes in the bit size module. After that, I have seen them going ahead and researching and coming back with questions. I need more. That's a benefit I see from a L&D perspective as an ROI. I'm not saying from an org perspective, but as an L&D guy, that's my ROI, right? That interest. You go back 5 years, right? Majority of trainings were always a push. Yeah. But now it has changed. Now the pull factor has come in because of this personalized learnings, because of these small things, the changes. The more you invest, I'm not saying monetarily, right? The more you put your focus there, the better pull factor comes in. Our jobs becomes easier. Instead of chasing follow-ups, send people for training. People comes, when is the next one?
Thank you.
That's my ROI.
Manoj.
I'll skip the ROI on regular learning matrices. But the way I look at is, today, do you have X number of people with Y number of skills to start a new line of business? If you have that, every investment that you have made in a product makes sense. A subset of that is the engagement of the learner, the needs of personalization, and others. That's my take.
So thank you. I think we have come to the end of our conversation. So appreciate your time on behalf of Imarticus, on behalf of everyone here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Samrat. Manoj. That's right.